Welcome to Columbus Report on Waycross Community Media. Now, in our last Columbus Report, we looked at the Senate version of the state budget that had just passed, and we looked at how it differed from the House version. And this month, we expected to be talking about what the final approved version of that Ohio state budget would wind up looking like. However, the House and the Senate did not reach a compromise by the deadline. With hours to go before the June 30th deadline for the 2-year operating budget to be signed, the Ohio Senate wound up approving a deal that would extend the existing budget for another 17 days to give them more time to negotiate. One of the differences between the House and the Senate versions of this budget has to do with academic distress commissions. And those are created according to the 2015 House Bill 70, when a school district receives an F on its report card 3 years in a row. The House version of the budget includes a repeal of HB 70. And this idea is backed by a coalition of teachers, school administration, and community who says the takeover model is not allowing for enough collaboration in their communities. On June 26, 2019, there was a press conference at Ohio State House where representatives from school districts all over the state, including nearby Dayton, as well as the League of Women Voters, and they spoke in more detail about why they feel House Bill 70 should be repealed, abolishing schools' takeover system of the state of academic distress commissions. Now, although one speaker points to resistance along party lines to this repeal, the issue really seems to be divided more between the House and the Senate than between Republican and Democrat. As a matter of fact, it's the Republican-led House version of the budget that does address the issue and include a repeal. Also, the Republican-led Senate version does not. It took that out. Now, if the final budget is passed without HB 70 being repealed, I think we can expect to see this conversation return. Just this past February, Governor Mike DeWine said that he was open to looking at the impact of HB 70 on the state school district. So whatever they decide on this particular budget, I think we're going to see this looked at a little bit more closely. So I think it's worth taking a look at that conference where we get to hear from these representatives speak in more detail about why they think it's very important to get rid of these academic distress commissions. So for the remainder of this program, we're going to go to that press conference so you can hear directly from these representatives all over the state and see what they have to say yourself.
Thank you all for coming today. We're here to stand up for Ohio's children and make a plea to the governor to return local democracy to Youngstown, to Lorain, and East Cleveland by supporting House Bill 154 in our state budget. We need a clear path to repeal school takeovers and end this failed idea. We heard from teachers, parents, and community members that have lived this nightmare and want it to end. They only want fair treatment, fair funding, and a real solution with the state facilitating partnerships with the local school districts. Through the budget process, we heard support for House Bill 154 from numerous education organizations, including the Ohio School Board Association, the Ohio Association of School Business Officials, the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, the Ohio Education Association, the Ohio Federation of Teachers, Public Education Partners, League of Women Voters, and public school districts that are here represented behind me. We need to position our schools for success, to prepare our children for the future. Districts under academic distress commissions have not improved since 2015. Test scores have continued to fall under state oversight. It is beyond consensus that House Bill 70 should be repealed and local democracy restored. Give us back our self-determination. are a lot of people standing behind me and waiting to be heard, a lot of people in the audience also waiting to hear from the governor. Governor, will you hear their voices? Let's start with the League of Women Voters. Susan Kaiser.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Susie Kaiser. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Ohio and serve as the education specialist for the League Lobby Corps. I'm not an educator. I am a concerned citizen, and I believe that public education is fundamental to our democracy and that the public is essential to the success of our public schools. I live in Cleveland Heights, and I'm a proud parent of 2 graduates of our public schools. And about a week after my daughters entered kindergarten in 1988, I became a classroom volunteer. And for the last 30 years, through my weekly visits to kindergarten and sometimes longer visits, this has informed my commitment to public education and my understanding of how to make schools good places for learning. I'm here to advocate for the repeal of House Bill 70 and its replacement with House Bill 154, because this legislation trusts the people closest to the classroom to devise ways to improve student engagement and learning. And it honors our democratic tradition of local governance of public school districts. I believe our shared goal as community members, educators, policymakers, is to provide our children an education that will enable them to thrive. We want them to graduate competent and curious. This depends on ensuring that all the players in the education process, that's all of us, do our best. Doing your best depends on trust, respect, support, encouragement, vision, inspiration, resources, determination, and a lot of more. Sanctions, negative labels, and changes of governance may produce compliance, but it certainly will never inspire people to be their best, and that's where the solution lies. I have 2 other concerns about the state intervention in local school districts. First, House Bill 70 violates our tradition of local control and undercuts a governance system that is responsive, invested, and accountable. A little civics lesson, remember, education is the responsibility of the state legislature, but it fulfills that by chartering local school districts to provide for education that serves the interests of the community. This is serving the interests of the community. So of course, a locally elected and governed school system is the best way to be in touch with the interests of the community. It's hard to imagine that someone who is not deeply rooted in a community and knowledgeable about its values and expectations could do a better job of meeting the needs of a community than a locally elected school board. Second, my concern is with the way in which the state determines who is a winner and who is not. The state report card is a problem. It's a problem for many reasons, but 3 of them for me are: first, and this is a problem for the League of Women Voters, is that it depends largely on standardized tests. And using a standardized test to judge quality is a misuse of a standardized test. It's a violation of good testing practice. Building a system on a flawed system does not work. The second problem is that it standardizes children. The assumption is all children are the same, and they will learn at the same rate, and they will end up at the same place at the same time. And that is not at all how children are. If my years of tutoring children has taught me anything, it is that they are as different one from the other from one moment to the next. There's nothing standard about children, and there's nothing good about standardizing them. So a report card that expects standardization is failing education and failing our children. Finally, this state report card is just simply too narrow. It defines quality in a very simple way. And quality is robust, it's complicated. What we want from schools is lots of stuff. It's not a test score. So the state report card doesn't work. Policymakers should resist the temptation to meddle in local district policy until they have developed a fair and robust system for defining, evaluating, and supporting quality. The state report card is not acceptable. It's not legitimate. It discriminates. So, lest I go on, at this late hour, Governor DeWine, will you stand behind local control of public schools? Because this is the best way to make sure the interests of the community are well served. Governor DeWine, will you stand behind defining education quality in meaningful ways and reject narrow measures of inequality? Governor DeWine, please listen to our concerns, our respect and commitment to public education, and our desire to be part of making our schools and the children who attend them the best that they can be.
Next, we're going to hear from Youngstown. Mr. Shad.
Good morning. I'm Ron Shad, and I'm a member of the Youngstown City School Board. And we are extremely overwhelmed in Youngstown that this movement has gotten to this point. In the beginning, it was this, oh, it's just the Youngstown plan. We just got to do something just for Youngstown. And what this HB 70 thing did was poison public education for all of Ohio. So when we're here seeing all these people stand united against this one thing that started in Youngstown, we know that this is not good for education in Youngstown or anywhere in Ohio. And that's one thing that we're very proud of, is that as communities got involved with this movement grew, and we saw something that I'm emotional about this, because we've been fighting at this for some time now. Our school district has been under state control since 2010. And how we see HB 70 is this a revamp of unilateral control that was already there by the state, that didn't benefit us in any way. We performed worse in all categories, and our funding we had $23 million in surplus funding prior to a CEO. CEO came in, and he spent about $13 million of that surplus funding in 2 years, $13 million less in the classroom. If our problem is academics, how do you justify spending $13 million less in the classroom? And another piece there, our CEO had 2 law firms, and he spent over estimated $3.5 million in 2 years with 2 law firms. In an average year, when it was just the school district's attorney, we spent about $155,000 in a year. So I don't even know what the math is on that. It might be like 4,000% more or whatever. But I mean, the money's not being spent where the problem is. If the problem is in the classroom, why not spend that money in the classroom? We've seen 32 new executive positions hired in our district at an average of $100,000 plus salaries, plus their retirement and insurance, and a ton of different things with that. And then recently, to try to cut the budget, our CEO pretty much cut back on the spending that he put in place. And in the aftermath of that, got rid of one of our very high esteemed principals, Ms. Dorbish, which our teachers union stood up and fought for her, because they believe a person who's been in the district for 35 years doing the right thing needs to have a job. So how is this change positive for our community when we have lifelong employees who have dedicated their time and service to us are then disregarded? And this is what we've seen not only with some favored administrators, but even with our teaching staff. Over the last 2 to 3 years that the CEO or HB 70 has been in effect, we have replaced almost a little over 300 teachers. And we have a little over 500 teachers in our district. So that's, so from HB 70, what we've seen was a deterioration in our teaching staff. We went from 10 years of experience to only having 7 years of experience with our teaching staff. And it's come to my knowledge that when we look at HB 70, it's an attack on taxpayers because they have no say on how their taxes are spent, on voters because they have no say on who will lead their communities or in education. And then there's the attack on on unionized workforce. And he is yet to finish negotiating with our unions. They've been working without a contract in some cases. That's not a fair work environment. That, you know, and in a lot of cases, these people live and work in Youngstown. They deserve to have a job that they know is going to have stability. And having that contract would mean all of that. And what we've seen is this unfair labor practices, money's being spent without any regard for the outcome of what will happen with our children academically. So we now face a situation, not only do we have to repair the damage put into place by HB 70, but we also have to find a way to make a world-class education for our students with less funding. So that's the situation HB 70 has put us in. Governor DeWine, we ask you to please, please honor the language that's in HB 154. It means the world to Youngstown, and it means the world to education in the state of Ohio. And we truly need your support to ensure that our students and our community have a fighting chance. We have a lot of obstacles in Youngstown, and our public education system shouldn't be one of them. Thank you.
While we're waiting for Lorraine City School District to come forward, and there are a number of people here from Lorraine, and they've been here at the State House on a weekly basis, traveling every doorway to find a senator and a representative for their story to be heard. But I want to honor my colleagues that are here standing with us, asking the governor to also stand with us. We have Senator Herschel Craig. We have Senator Cecil Thomas from Cincinnati. Herschel Craig is from Columbus. We have Senator Sykes from Akron, and he's been our ranking member on the Budget Committee, has done an outstanding job trying to help us get those policies that are important for Ohio to really be outstanding. And so we're going to hear from Lorraine City School Board and their members, which there are many in the gray shirts.
Good afternoon. I am Mark Ballard, the president of the Lorraine City School Board, and I thank you all for coming here. And I will just say quickly off the record, Lorraine has been amazing as a community coming together, and if there's anything that came out of Hospital 70, it was Lorraine. Thank you all. So as I thought about what I would speak about today, I want to emphasize 3 key points. One point was, I think it is significantly important to highlight that Lorraine City Schools has demonstrated and established a long history of working collaboratively to bring about transformational change. This was well documented in the growth in student achievement we experienced with the first state commission. Oftentimes you'll hear people talk about, you know, we drove it in the bus, but we drove the bus in a ditch. But we've been under at least two commissions, so they've been driving this bus for the last 6 or 7 years. This was implemented, like I said, with such fidelity that our progress was held up as exemplar with the Ohio Department of Education. The second point, and I think it is important that this narrative that is implication of impact that a highly flawed state report card has had on the disregard for growth and progress and its connections to issues of equity in brown, black, and underserved communities. The third point is the issue of silencing the voice of the people and how House Bill 70 has eroded the tenets of representative democracy, which is the bedrock of American culture. As an elected school board member, I have an ethical responsibility, as you do, as an elected senator or the governor, to ensure that our constituents' voices are heard. Further, the traditions of the communities that you represent remain pivotal to your efforts to advance any change that is needed. I think you know that there's only one solution. Please restore the voice of the people and repeal House Bill 70 and support the 154. And with that, I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Steve Cawthon, a member of the Lorraine Academic Distress Commission, appointed by the Board of Education as the teacher representative. As a proud educator since 1991 and a parent of a Lorraine City Schools graduate, it has been troubling to see what has happened in Lorraine and across Ohio. Our community has been adversely affected by the disenfranchising legislation known as House Bill 70, which creates ADCs and the CEO takeover model. It is my professional opinion that the Senate include language from House Bill 154 in the budget bill, and that this body vote to end House Bill 70 and support effective legislation that will restore collaboration for public education in Ohio. Our schools should have a fair and impartial opportunity to allow their unique social and economic realities to shape the structures that will allow their districts to prosper. Remember that school districts are communities, and the time for community takeovers has passed. Let us work together to make our public education experience a model for the rest of our great nation to follow. With that, Ohio needs to return local control to the districts, which is part of the fiber of the American ideology that our founding fathers so cherished. Fix the flawed state report card and testing model. Properly fund public education and collaborate with communities to improve our schools. The State Board unanimously passed a resolution against House Bill 70, and the House has already voiced their thoughts on the issue with the overwhelming passage of House Bill 154. I ask the Senate, along with Governor Mike DeWine, to be on the right side of history, stand with us with public education in Ohio, and leave a lasting legacy that all Ohioans can be proud of, and not leave us with another American tragedy. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Dayton.
I want to apologize for showing up a little late this morning. Besides being on the Dayton School Board of Education, I'm also an immigration attorney, so as you can imagine, my life is a lot of fun right now. My name is Mohammed AlHamdi. I'm a proud member of the Dayton Board of Education, but I'm also a proud product of Dayton Public Schools. I am what I am, and I tell people all the time, because of my teachers and the work that they did to bring me up. My family came here, we didn't speak English. We didn't have anything. Dayton Public Schools made me who I am. And it's because of public education that I'm fighting for it today. House Bill 70 needs to be repealed right now. Academic distress commissions, state takeovers are wrong for Ohio, they're wrong for Lorain, East Cleveland, Youngstown, and they will be wrong for Dayton. We cannot allow this to happen. As it was mentioned earlier, the House has already done its job. The Senate did not join. The solution for this problem cannot occur behind closed doors with secret committees. People meeting in the back trying to make decisions on our behalf without us at the table. I asked the governor to come and listen to us. Give us a seat at the table. See, they think we're afraid of accountability, they say. We don't want to be held accountable. Is anybody here afraid of accountability? No. We're not afraid of accountability. What we're afraid of is outsiders coming to our community telling us what to do without them having any knowledge of the problems that we face. There is no silver bullet to fixing the issues our communities face. If there was, we would have used it by now, right? If there was a solution to all the issues, they would have legislated it by now. They know it doesn't exist. But we all know what does work. Proper funding of education would work. Support from the State House will work. I beg the Senate and the governor to create a culture of support for our educators, for our community, and for our school district that will help us thrive. Do that, and not only will you see us succeed, but you'll see our communities and our students succeed, and that's what the fight should be about. It should be about our students. Thank you this morning for allowing me to speak. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to hear from Canton Education Association President and school board members.
Thank you, Senator Fetter, Senators Thomas, Craig, and Sykes. I am Eric Resnick. I am the Vice President of the Canton City School District Board of Education and also its legislative liaison. And I'm privileged to be here today as an elected public school district Board of Education member representing my community, my colleagues, our district stakeholders, including our nearly 9,000 students and our talented, hardworking district employees whose expertise and dedication should be celebrated, not maligned by legislators who do not know our community. State takeover plans simply do not work. They do not work in Ohio or any other state that has experimented with them. They're a bad idea that must go and go now. Our brothers and sisters in Youngstown, Lorain, and East Cleveland have been devastated by this ideological nostrum, and Ohio must not sentence Dayton to it this year, nor Canton and the other 9 in the queue the following year. Ohio needs to respect that local governments by publicly accountable elected school boards is the most effective way to educate children. Ohio needs to recognize that state takeover of school districts is taxation without representation and conflict of interest. The House has passed House Bill 154, which eliminates the threat of state takeover. It should be a no-brainer, except for a few senators, none up here, but a few senators refusing to let go of a failed, destructive experiment and still insisting that the state knows better. The headline of the Plain Dealer analysis published Monday says it all. Has state takeover improved struggling schools? Test scores say no. Governor DeWine, Lieutenant Governor Houston, can Ohioans count on you to respect public school districts? Can we count on you to make decisions based on evidence rather than politics and personalities, as you expect local school boards to do? Can we count on you to stand in the way of takeover schemes that discriminate and rig the system against high poverty districts, thereby undermining your broader goals of better serving those students? Can you, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, lead an effort to tackle the real culprit, which is Ohio's defective and invalid report card? Interesting that senators have not mentioned the report card at all, while spending lots of time meeting and plotting ways to rename and reconfigure state takeover schemes. A sleight of hand designed to make a horrible plan seem palatable. And Ohio's schools are still struggling with an unconstitutional funding model. Governor DeWine, Lieutenant Governor Houston, can we count on you to lead Ohio to the realization that some students are more needy and more expensive to educate than others, and finally put Ohio's schools on firm constitutional ground? Governor DeWine, Lieutenant Governor Houston, Ohio's school districts have real needs now, and we need your leadership to meet those needs, starting right now with the elimination of the threat of insidious, ineffective, and likely unconstitutional state takeover schemes. Governor, Governor DeWine, Lieutenant Governor Houston, can we count on you? And I'd like to turn the microphone now to, very proudly turn the microphone now to one of the Canton City School District teachers who represents the future of the Canton City School District, and I'm grateful that he's here, Mr. Spencer Garrity.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming. I wish the cameras could see the back of this room because it's incredibly packed, and that just speaks to our passion for students across the state of Ohio. My name is Spencer Garrity. I'm a Canton City school teacher. I teach special education, serving some of our most vulnerable, underserved students in this state. Before that, I was a Canton City school student myself, just as you spoke about, and that was really, to your point as well, it helped me become who I am today. I graduated from Early College High School in 2012. Actually graduated college 2 weeks before I graduated high school, so I had an associate's degree before I had my high school diploma. This is an opportunity that's available to our students of Canton City schools. those that meet the admission criteria that complete that prescribed coursework. And when I hear words such as failing, talking about my school district, it offends me in a way. Our school district is not one that's failing. Even those that don't necessarily go to early college, high school have an opportunity to participate in career tech programs, 17 of them that put students on a pathway for life, whether it be welding, whether it be auto collision work, whether it be cosmetology. And a lot of those programs come with certifications and pathways for life. Pathways for life is really what we need to focus on. Academic distress commissions do more to divide communities than I think anything that I've seen in my short time on this earth. The aspect that these affect most, of course, they affect our school boards. Of course, they affect our parents, our teachers, but the ones they affect most are our students. Our students in urban settings particularly, not to single them out, but particularly need more services, and we know that as urban educators. We know that students in these districts crave stability, and when legislation from the State House is coming down that promotes instability, it trickles all the way down to those students, and those students are really what we're about. We need the state to lend a helping hand rather than a hurting hand. We need the state to extend their hand and say, what can we do? How can we wrap around you to support these students? How can we help make sure that our students are ready for the workforce? How can we make sure they're on a pathway for life? Governor DeWine, Lieutenant Governor Husted, we ask you to extend that helping hand. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Paul Palumbo, and I am honored to be here today to represent the citizens of Canton, Ohio. I'm also here as an educator and the president of the Canton Professional Educators Association. I stand before this body holding a letter submitted to all 33 senators from the vested stakeholders of Canton, Ohio. A letter denouncing the draconian tactics of House Bill 70 while praising the merits of House Bill 154, the common sense alternative to academic distress commissions. The signatures are many, but have grown to include the mayor, council president, school board members, district superintendent, ESC superintendent, educational leaders, nonprofit CEOs, corporate CEOs, college and university presidents, labor leaders, and the editors and publishers of our local newspaper. However, the signatures also signify a united community, a community ready to celebrate our educational achievements, and a community ready to accept the challenges of creating local improvement teams to work in conjunction with state officials to address targeted buildings, not the entire district. And we believe in our local organizations, networks, and stakeholders to ensure that the work gets done. Finally, as an education union leader, I understand how crucial a teacher's voice is in advocating for our profession and servicing the populations of our students. Ohio's failed state takeover is a silence of that voice, a silence of the community's voice. As an educator, a union leader, and a community stakeholder, I call upon the State Budget Conference Committee and the governor to repeal and replace the failed state takeover and restore local control. Thank you.
Next, we have Columbus City Schools, and practically everyone is here because it's so local, but, please join the podium.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gary Baker. I'm the president of the Columbus Board of Education. I'm also president of a group called the Franklin County School Board Member Alliance. I want to thank Senator Feder for providing this opportunity to us today. If you're here from Columbus, just raise your hand. You are here in opposition of HB 70 and all the other nonsense that has been foisted upon us by this General Assembly and this state. We are here during a week of action against state takeovers organized by the Franklin County School Board Member Alliance, Public Education Partners, and the Coalition for Equity and Adequacy of School Funding. So thank you for being here during this special week. We have mobilized a lot of great people from around the state, and visit the PEP Facebook site to see some of our activities. Simply put, we are at war. War on public education traced all the way back to the Reagan administration when the Nation at Risk report came out. So they have attacked teachers, administrators, school boards, anyone else they can think of. And this is just another part of that. And so we all need to be aware of that. 90% of the last 20 years, this General Assembly has been controlled by one particular party. And they seem to be more interested in things like controlling a woman's body, giving anyone who wants one an AK-47, and preventing cities from the ability to regulate plastic bags. They would rather focus on those things, it seems, than doing important things like fixing public education funding. Last year, the state of Ohio cheated Columbus out of almost $100 million because the legislature has failed for 20+ years to fix funding of public education in this state. So I ask you this, who takes over a failing legislature? School takeovers, that's a good question. It's a good question, and when I speak of a failing General Assembly, obviously I don't speak of those senators and representatives who stand with us. They are heroes of ours in this General Assembly, and they're fighting the good fight. Thank you. School takeovers just simply do not work. We all know that. The evidence points to that. You know what does work? Democracy. And so I choose democracy, and I ask the governor, lieutenant governor, this legislature to choose democracy. History will judge all of us. The State Board of Education and the House, they've done their jobs. So now we are calling on the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the Senate to do their jobs on behalf of their constituents. And if I may, I want to yield just 30 seconds to Bill Phillis, if that's all right, Senator. Bill, come on up. Just wants to make one quick statement.
Thank you, Gary. We are at a defining moment here in the state of Ohio. Either we're going to support democracy or we're going to support dictatorship. Either we're going to support the efficacy of local control or state control of local matters. Either we're going to support the idea that local board members have an authority, or we're not. And if we can, as a state, if we can strip local board members of their authority, then what about some higher authority stripping all other elected officials of their authority? We are at a defining moment here in the state of Ohio.
Good morning, Ohio. Good morning. All right. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Cole. I humbly serve as Vice President of the Columbus City School Board of Education. I am a proud advocate and product of a public school education from kindergarten to college right here in this state of Ohio. In fact, right next door to East Cleveland and Cleveland Heights University High School District. I'm also a parent, and I represent a whole bunch of folks in this community, teachers and students alike. Some like a young lady standing in the back who's one of our students in this district, who represents what excellence is in our students and what excellence is and what is produced by our teachers. 4.7 GPA students who are workforce ready, working responsible positions with our municipal leaders, with our businesses, with our nonprofit communities. Senator Craig, doing good work, good work. Please give them a round of applause very quickly. I also happen to be an educator in Southwestern City School District, in the classrooms every day, teaching social studies and language arts. And I have a guiding principle or philosophy about my work in the classroom and what we do every day. And it's from Frederick Douglass. It says that it is better to mold a child than to mend a man. It is better to mold a child than to mend a man. House Bill 70 does not do that for our children. In fact, it makes it incredibly difficult for our public school system to educate our youngsters, to provide them the necessities that they need. How so? Because what it does is it effectively is not reform of a district or a system. It is actually providing a situation of punitive action against Ohio schools. It punishes not just our teachers or our administrators, it punishes our children. It punishes our children. I have a simple math equation for you. Distressed schools times stressed students and teachers times academic distress commissions equals communities that are devalued, equals communities that deteriorate, equals communities that are destroyed, We are daily eroding the hard work of everybody who is engaged in the success of our children when we support things like HB 70. And we don't issue what I'm going to ask of each of us today, to make a phone call to our governor, make a phone call to our legislature, knock the doors while you're here. Knock the doors while you're here and demand that we just slip it in. What are you talking about, Mr. Cole? Slip it in. Slip in the House Bill 154 language. Just slip it in. S is for shifting the focus onto struggling schools and away from a whole district approach. L, leave in local control with the support of collaborators like our families, educators, business, nonprofit, faith, and municipal leaders. Without this collaborative buy-in, we are doomed to failure. We are doomed to failure, not by how you reward, in some instances, other systems that do more profiteering of our districts and our public dollars than they do educating our students. I, increase funding for community wraparound services. Canton, I heard you. I heard you. Learning community, we're making this work in Columbus. We are. We're a shining testament of how you can move from next to best to better to best just by collaborating and working together. And I want to thank my colleagues here for helping me in that work as well. P, provide districts ample time for the creation of any turnaround plans with use of experienced Ohio educators, people who really know our work and our struggle. What I offer today is not so much a demand as it is a win-win proposition. Mr. Governor, our brothers and sisters, and let me be redundant, let me say that one more time. Our brothers and sisters in the Ohio legislature, our brother and sisters in working for the governor, and also even in the judiciary, in all levels of government. This is our time now to turn around by slipping it in. House Bill 154. I'll leave with this. Slipping this language in is a win-win proposition. We can lose, or we can laser focus. We can laser focus by ensuring local accountability through collaboration and not separation, provide needed supports and time to our children and those wrapped around them who love them, and dedicate to their success. Brothers and sisters, again, I ask you to just slip it in. Thank you.
And last but not least, my proud public school district. I taught 18 years in Toledo, and we have Chris Varwig from the Toledo Public School Board.
Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you. I stand before you today as a proud graduate of Toledo Public Schools. I am now a parent, well, I've been a parent of a public school child, and I am on the board of Toledo Public Education. Let me just say, over-testing, flawed report card, academic distress commissions, revolving graduation requirements, all equal failing public schools in Ohio, period. We have 23,000 students in TPS. 2,700 of them are homeless or transient students. The last thing we need is the state to come in and tell us what they think is best. We know our community. We take care of our own there. We have our business community, our Chamber of Commerce, our mayor, our council members completely behind us. They've sent letters to the governor and all of the senators and House legislators. I will tell you this, if you decide to take away taxpayer voice, you might have a revolt on your hands. And it's not just parents, it's not just teachers, it's not just business leaders. You're talking the entire community in Toledo will be up at arms. We are an advocate for House Bill 154. We know that's the right method at this time. You want to talk about accountability? We're fine with accountability. We did our own report card the same day the state did, and we told the true scores, not the flawed scores. So I appreciate everyone here. It's kindred spirits. This is really exciting to be here. I do want to make one comment about what I heard Senator Coley say about the ditch. The only ditch that we find ourselves in is the one created by the state. Thank you.
Well, you've heard the court of public opinion. The court of public opinion has spoken. Governor, do you hear our voices? Governor, will you stand with us to restore local control? Hear our plea. The time to end state takeovers and restore democracy and our self-determination is today. We hope that you will join us. Thank you.